The topic is relationship prepared, but whether you're in a relationship and preparing for that relationship, or whether you're just about to embark on a relationship, or whether or not you've just finished a relationship, it's all appropriate. Okay. So, I guess just to start with, in a relationship? Yes? Out of a relationship? Thinking about one? Maybe. I'm married. I've been married for 30 odd years, so, well, not quite 30 years, close to 30 years. And certainly happy to be there for a while yet. Go into a relationship, something happens, it doesn't work, they move away from that relationship, and then they turn around and they go into another relationship and find themselves in exactly the same space. It's like, well, what happened? How did I get back to this place? You know, the story maybe is that something in between time, you know, has yet to be learned in order to not go into that same space again. So that's the lesson for all of us. I've been in this industry for nearly 30 years, actually maybe even a bit longer these days. What qualifies me is certainly a few pieces of paper on my wall. If ever you want to come and look at them, you're welcome to. I look at them every morning. I've also written a couple of books, and this particular one, Love Lies in the Games Couples Play, is my most recent baby. And a lot of the references I make within my seminars and also in my workshops, I've got another one coming up shortly, I take their reference from this book, so that's certainly a worthwhile thing to have. The little grey book about family law mediation is a freebie. Please feel free to take one. There's a bit of information in there as well. As I've just mentioned, you know, what qualifies me certainly is the fact that I've been in this industry for 30 years, and my specialty certainly over the last 15, 20 years has been working with couples and working with families, both within a counselling context as well as within a family law mediation context. So I draw my qualifications from that. And probably what qualifies me most of all is the fact that I have 4 children and I have 4 grandchildren who I'm very proud of. My children are thankfully all grown up, all in relationships, living their life as they should be living their life. So I'm very happy and very proud of them, and have 4 delightful granddaughters who are the absolute delight of my life. So big family, and a very close-knit family. We're all very connected with each other, and it feels very nice to be in that. And the bloke down there with the grey beard, that's my current partner, and has been my partner for nearly 30 years. And I know, and this is the nicest thing of all, to be able to say that he is my soulmate, and it took me quite a while to find him, but having found him, I'm holding on to him. Just briefly, my story in terms of where I've come from and why I sit here and speak to you about relationships. In this picture is my 4 children when they were very tiny, and my first husband, obviously in the back there, and the young woman was me some years ago. And I was in a relationship that I thought had brought to me my knight in shining armour. I grew up in the country, actually on the central coast of New South Wales. And when I finished high school, it was a little bit like, well, you know, what do I do now? I had no real idea. And I happened to actually meet this bloke. My father owned a little milk bar, and I used to work in the milk bar during the holidays. And this particular man came into the shop one time with a friend that I had met in that same milk bar a couple of years earlier, and he was introduced to me, and we got to talking, and one thing led to another, and he told me that he lived in Sydney, and I thought, well, Sydney's got to be a good place to be then. So within a couple of weeks I'd actually packed my bags and come down to Sydney and made it my home. Met with this guy again, and within about 6 months I think we were living together, and within about 12 months we were actually married. Married at 19, so I was only still quite young. Had my 4 children by the time I was 30, so they are now considerably older, being adults themselves. And our relationship lasted for about 15 years. and it just didn't quite turn out that he was my knight in shining armour. Indeed, he wasn't my knight in shining armour. But I think what happened over those 15 years basically is I grew up, and I think he may have grown up as well. So that 15 years down the track, I don't think it was anything dreadful that it was happening between us. I think we had simply grown apart and we just lost contact with each other. I think more and more I gave my time to my kids, and I think more and more he gave his time to his work. And one thing I have certainly learned over the years is that if you ever stop talking to each other, it's very likely you're going to lose the relationship. Communication is absolutely the key. It's one of the things I'm going to talk about tonight. You have to keep talking. Never, ever, ever stop talking. To find your way to each other, to find the things that you have in common, to share experiences with, to share stories with, to learn from. Communication is the key for that. And I think basically we had lost each other in our own lives, you know, they're near the twain shall meet. So we separated. I actually was the one who made the decision. I took those 4 children, not much older than they were in this photograph, and went and re-established my life in a new home, which I built, and in a new suburb, and ultimately with my new partner who came into the scene shortly after that. He was meant to be my rebound, but he ended up becoming my knight in shining armour for real. And it's nice to be able to say he's still there. But as a consequence of my own experiences through those 15 years and into my current relationship, and by the way, I have a great deal of respect for my current husband, because not only did he take on me, but he took on me with 4 kids, which I think was a pretty big task, and not a lot of people actually manage that at all. And we had our ups and downs, and certainly not saying it was always clear sailing, but in that we certainly found our way. And of course now the kids have moved on, he's got me all to himself, so he reckons it was worth waiting for. As a consequence of that, I've created a mission for my life from here on in, and that is to do whatever I can to help reduce the alarming rate of divorce in this country. That is not to say that divorce or separation, indeed, at times is not totally appropriate, and I will certainly, you know, be the first one to put my hand up in terms of looking back to my first relationship. I don't have any regrets about that. I have a lot of gratitude in terms of the things that I learnt from that relationship that now stand me in good stead. Certainly I also have my ex-husband to thank for my degree, which I would never have acquired, or may not have acquired in any other way other than he supported me through that opportunity. So what I'm trying to do now is to help educate people, to inform people, to help people find their way through their relationship struggles and their relationship difficulties, to either come to a place where they can find a way of reconnecting with each other, or indeed to come to a place where they make a decision that this relationship is finished and it's time for us to move on. And both are appropriate. And the critical thing that I guess from my perspective is that if it is time to move on, then there are ways to do that that are not going to be harmful and hurtful for people, especially for children. So I guess that's sort of my number one focus when I'm working with couples who are separating, and working with couples where there are children involved.